listening to Power Talks with Beth Ann and Melody Seedstrom in the morning, where talk is real, truth is in the talk, and there is power in truth, and we believe the truth will set you free. Welcome this morning, Melody, and welcome all the listeners.
Well, good morning and to you and to everyone. It's great to be here this beautiful but a little chilly Monday morning. So
a little chilly. It's been chilly here all weekend. We didn't get any snowfall, but we had rain and cold and the wind. The wind made it the worst. Right now it's kind of drizzly. It's kind of icky out, but I don't know. It's turning winter, and we're just going to have to accept it. Accept the inevitable.
Yes, it is. Beautiful fall day. It's a beautiful and windy fall day. There's a lot of things in the news. There's a lot of information that's going to be coming out this week that'll be, probably affecting the markets. Donald Trump is supposed to choose his pick for the Federal Reserve replacement of Janet Yellen. If he chooses to replace her, so he heads off to his whirlwind of visits to Asia. Begins later on in the week. He goes later on in the week. We have the jobs report coming out this week, and Wednesday we also have the 1,000-page tax reform coming out. There's big headlines yesterday that they're keeping everything really secret again. It's just like, what is wrong with these people? Just release the stupid thing, just like the Kennedy. Just release it, We're adults. We can handle it. We really can. So there's a lot of things. So there is a lot of things to talk about, particularly Manafort. But I have two little items that I have here that I just kind of got my goat this weekend.
Okay.
And there's an Episcopal parish that is it's the vestry of Christ Church in Alexandria, Virginia.
Got it. Mm-hmm.
And they announced that, and this was a place where George Washington frequently worshipped.
Yes, he was kind of the founder, wasn't he?
I don't know if he was the founder, but he frequently worshipped there. And they decided to remove the memorial plaque honoring the nation's first president, saying the decision was out of a desire to provide a welcoming worship space for all visitors. The church is also going to remove a similar memorial plaque honoring Robert E. Lee. And it's just like, we've gotten so
crazy, sensitive. How is having that? I will concede that I understand why some people might have problems with General Robert E. Lee, but not George Washington. Phone issues and internet issues, and we apologize for that. When we were, before we were silenced and interrupted, we were talking about the removing of the founder member George Washington Memorial at the church in Alexandria, Virginia. We'll have Melody back with us here just shortly.
I am here.
There she is. We were talking. I thought y'all kicked me out, Melody.
It's Monday. I don't know what's going on.
It is Monday. Anyway, I don't know where you were when we were talking, but let's get back on that topic with that church because I have another one that I wanted to discuss with that as well.
Well, I think that was, just move on. I mean, I think we said everything we need to say about there. It was just here you have a church where George Washington actually worshipped, and they're going to remove the plaque. I mean, it's like, things are just really getting out of control, and it's our history is being rewritten.
And even a newer part of history. There was a red liquid that was splashed on the base of a Theodore Roosevelt statue outside the American Museum of National History in New York City, and that happened early Thursday morning, the police said, and continuing the trend of vandalizing statues deemed offensive by certain groups. Now, I'm not sure why Theodore Roosevelt is offensive to them, but it's just. It seems like what this is the same thing that's going on with the NFL, and it's an attack against the constitutional republic. They don't want this nation to be what it was founded to be. They want it to be a socialistic, communistic nation. If you'll remember when this started, ISIS was kind of cheering them on, because that's what they were doing. They were going into some of these countries and knocking over statues and trying to. Just because you knock over a statue doesn't mean you remove history. History doesn't change because you knocked over a statue and showed disrespect. And that's exactly what's going on with the NFL. And, of course, they had something this weekend where they decided they were upset with the, what was his name? And I've got it here in front of me. I've just kind of been going through the papers because of everything that's happened this morning. They decided to do a big protest because he made the comment about you can't have the inmates running the asylum. And so they took offense to that, which I guess I could kind of understand taking offense to that. But they decided in their protest they would just all take a knee, which is what they ended up doing during the ball game on Sunday. And I can't even find my paper, and I know it's right here underneath my fingertips.
Well,
but then we had a...
yeah, but you know what, Beth? It used to be where they would just say two little words and move on,
Well, but they haven't got their way yet. They haven't quite destroyed the nation yet, so they're still going to stick at it. And here it is. Here's part of that. Anyway, they also had one of the Houston baseball players, Major League Baseball players. He hit home run, and this is in the World Series that's going on. He happens to be a black man. He hit a home run, saved the day there for Houston, and the pitcher on the opposing team happened to be Asian. So when he sits back down, he makes a gesture, pulling his eyes out to the pitcher. So he got fined, and he got suspended for 4 games, but that doesn't start till next year. I said, well, that'll teach him. It doesn't start till the next season. This season, they got to have him because they want to play through this World Series. So how much does the racism really mean to these folks? Because we're just a bunch of sensitive little snowflakes, and I don't even like the word snowflakes right now because I'm afraid I'm going to see some outside. But I don't take their hearts very serious. I take them as hypocrites because they do something like this. That means that they don't, to me, that means they really don't hold racism that poorly, unless it's against them. They just hate the white race and everybody that's not black. And maybe some people are that way. They're white. They hate anybody that's not white. There's always going to be those people. There's always going to be prejudice. But as a whole, this nation is not that way. And he should not have made that gesture. And if they really think it's important, then his punishment should have been immediate, not next season. Immediate. Is that more important than the World Series game? Apparently not. So, anyway, and there was another one that was arrested that took a knee, and he was arrested for some kind of gun violation. So there probably really are the inmates running the asylum, as the other guy said, in the NFL. But it's a mess. It's a mess, and we're letting people have a voice that really aren't in a position to have a voice. And I don't mean that flippantly. I mean they're not really speaking up for what they're saying. Their actions don't reflect their protest. Maybe I should put it that way, or vice versa. So anyway, it's kind of it infuriates me, and I know it does you. And they're going around and knocking down.
Beth, what I have a problem with is it's getting to the point where they are beginning to control people how they act. Now, yes, you're an idiot, and I could say some other words about people when, you move your eyes up, to inflict an insult to the Asian. Get over it. That's childish.
Absolutely.
Now he's being controlled to behave in a certain manner, and to call it racist, I mean, have people really forgotten the meaning of racist and everything that we do, from blinking an eye to, looking at someone cross-eyed? Does that make us a racist then? And people, there's a group of people that are dictating how we behave, what we think, what we say in ways. And was this uncalled for? Yes, it was. But you know what? They're playing. Can you imagine? What do football players say to one another when they're on the line, facing one another? Can you even imagine what they say? Yeah. And I mean, it's pretty soon they're going to have to say, "Hi, buddy, don't hit me too hard," or, "I'm going to get you for this." I mean, I don't know.
It's gotten beyond any kind of common sense, that's for sure.
Absolutely.
He shouldn't have done it. He should have been fined for it. If this is a big deal, then by golly, then put your foot down.
Hey, the guy makes $12 million. I don't think $320,000 in sensitivity training is going to make an impact on him.
No, but I'm saying if it's really that important, don't make your suspension wait a year. Do it now. But the money's too important. We're going into a break. Your calls are welcome at 717-300-1218. That's 717-300-1218. You're listening to Power Talks with Melody and Beth Ann in the morning, and we will be right back.
Hear it first on FirstAmendmentRadio.com and FirstAmendmentRadio.net. Gold and silver is tremendously undervalued. Global demand vastly exceeds mine supply by more than 60% annually. There is little in the financial world more certain than a coming explosion in the prices of gold and silver. The U.S. dollar continues to lose value and respect as the world's reserve currency. Our nation faces challenges on many fronts, and a day doesn't pass without another economist bringing forth warnings of impending economic calamity. There has never been a better time than right now to acquire physical gold and silver. Discount Gold and Silver Trading was founded on the principles of truth and honesty. We believe in providing a quality product, quality service, and most importantly, competitive pricing. We provide all forms of precious metals, including American gold, silver, platinum, and rare investment and circulated coins. Silver bars, rounds, and 90% silver bags are on hand for the silver investor. Gold self-directed IRAs are available. Call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188. Toll free, that's 1-800-375-4188.
Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of Nicholas Arthur's new book titled When the Third Temple is Built. That's crosstheborder.org. When it comes to prophecy today, much of the evangelical Christian world has their eyes on Israel, waiting and watching to see when the third temple will begin to be built. The plans are drawn. The Jewish people are eager. Most evangelical Christians today believe that the rapture will happen before the third temple is built. Hi, I'm Michael Yuji. I was taught that Daniel's 70th week was in the future. Is that really what the Bible teaches? Have we searched the Scriptures and found this to be true? Why is it so important for a reestablished Israel to build a third temple in Jerusalem? Is it necessary to build a temple on the same location already occupied by the Dome of the Rock? Is it necessary for sacrifices to take place in the temple on Temple Mount? Is there really a rapture followed by 7 years of tribulation? What is the New Testament temple? Can we identify history and prophecy? Who is the first beast in Revelation chapter 13? Who are the 7 kings in Revelation 17? I have asked all these questions, and I have found Nicholas Arthur's new book, When the Third Temple is Built, answers all these questions and more, using Scripture to interpret Scripture. The Bible says that no prophecy of Scripture is of any private interpretation. Nicholas shows us in his new book, When the Third Temple is Built, how the Bible interprets prophecy and not man's private interpretation. Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of Nicholas Arthur's new book titled When the Third Temple is Built. That's crosstheborder.org.
Years ahead of the dominant media, FirstAmendmentRadio.com and FirstAmendmentRadio.net.
So childish, and my point was, and then I think we should move on.
I think
my
so
point
too.
was, if it's important, then deal with it now.
Right.
It's one of the worst things you can do for a kid. Not that I wasn't guilty of this as a parent. Was wait till your father comes home. sometimes it was worse for them, and sometimes it was just like they don't even know what they're getting punished for later. But deal with the situation now. Don't wait. His punishment is going to come next season.
Right.
Instead of now, when the World Series is carrying on, when he actually did it was right now. So I think that their gesture is pretty empty in my mind. I think they're all really childish. He shouldn't have done it, and it's like you said, they say worse to each other out there on the field. But
right.
Before we move on, we do want to talk about Manafort. But you're the history buff. You're the history buff, and I got this morning, but it was actually yesterday was the history moment, and that's when we had the stock market crash in October 29th of 1929.
Right.
So I thought that was coming out of the American Minute, and I thought of you right away. There's my history for my girl. I didn't know if you wanted to talk about that any today or not, but there you go.
No, I think there's other things to talk about. I mean, that was that's history, as we say, and
we could tear that one down.
Certainly, I think
tear that statue down.
Certainly, I believe the next crash we have will far surpass the October 29th. But let's go ahead and talk about Manafort. He was indicted, and some of the first charges that are coming out in the Russian probe were conspiracy against the USA, money laundering, tax fraud, and there's more. And it's I guess there's 12 counts.
Yes.
And I didn't have a chance to read the full text.
It's huge
today, but those are some of the most. I mean, those are the ones that have been recognized.
And it wasn't just him; it was his associate as well that was also is going to be indicted or was arrested. Gates, yes. And Manafort did turn himself in. I find it interesting because before this was going on, they had talked to Manafort's people, and they said, no, we haven't received any notice or anything. Then he walks in there Monday morning, turns himself in. So apparently they had received something.
I mean, I don't think this was a real shock to anyone. I mean,
no.
if anybody was going to be indicted, it was going to be Manafort. He did have an interesting career as a lobbyist, and he did do, he did some major work, political work under Reagan, under Bush. He did help promote a lot of world dictators. In 1980, because I didn't know much about Manafort other than his relationship with Trump, so I just went and did some looking. But he had co-founded Black, Manafort, Stone, and Kelly, and it was the Beltway lobbying firm. And of course, I think everyone is familiar with Stone, Roger Stone. He seems to be popular among the.
Yeah. He's up there in your country, isn't he, in New York area or Pennsylvania area?
Yeah, but I mean, he seems to be popular in the conservative media. They drag him, he's ready there to be interviewed at any time, but he is a longtime Trump confidant. Charles Black, he was a leading strategist in the John Kasich campaign, and one of its most lucrative clients was Jonas Savimbi, leader of UNITA, which is a pro-Western rebel army fighting the communist government in Angola. So he helped make Savimbi a heroic figure among conservatives in Washington think tanks, and helped get him to secure hundreds of millions of dollars in aid from the Reagan and Bush administrations, and money that never brought a victory. So it's kind of, these are the kind of guys. Before he was associated with Mr. Trump, we wouldn't have liked what he did. He lobbied for money in Washington, often successful. He did help in a lot of presidential campaigns, and but that doesn't mean that he's guilty. He's innocent until proven guilty.
When we talk about all the history of him and what he's done, and when we look into these politicians, these people that have a career in politics, he may not have held an office, but he had a career in politics. And we just got through talking about the sports arena and the the criminals running the asylum. And we look at what's going down now with all of this. Now, I've got an article from the Daily Caller. I've got several here on Manafort, but this one is from the Daily Caller, and he's claiming that the FBI's investigation into President Donald Trump's former campaign manager, Paul Manafort, is focused on several suspicious wire transfers he made 4 years before the presidential election, according to a Sunday report from the BuzzFeed. It said, and you already repeated, Manafort's allegedly made 13 wire transfers from 2011 to 2012 that drew the attention of federal law enforcement officials who were examining if he was helping the Ukrainian regime launder millions in plundered through corrupt dealings. Much of the money was filtered through the U.S. before landing in various areas around the world, and this comes from BuzzFeed's reports again. Anyway, the things that they will do, laundering the money, and I've got an article about somebody coming out about actually it was a statement from Trey Gowdy that that's what it looks that Hillary Clinton has done, is laundered money. Well, we knew that that's what they were doing. Well, we say we knew. We suspected, very, very highly suspected that that's what the Clinton Foundation was all about in the first place. They might have done a few humanitarian things, but we also know they didn't send the money and they didn't help in Haiti like they were supposed to with all that they got. So, we look at what these people are doing, and I don't like saying these people, but they don't live in the same world as you and I do, Melody. They don't even live in the same world. They don't think the same way. They go after whatever they possibly can, it would seem, at whatever possible cost. And like I said, he's innocent until proven guilty, and I guess we should say the same thing for the Clintons, except so much has come down through the years that the guilt seems to be there. We just don't ever seem to get justice on it. But it's they don't live in the same world that we live in, and the decisions that they make, yet the decisions that they make and how they get their wealth affect our lives and our safety here in the United States. So.
Well, that's the problem with everything that we deal with. There's no accountability, and they, supposedly they are innocent until proven guilty, but take them to court, We
don't even get that far, do we?
We don't even get that far, And no, this person, he's a shaker, he's a wheeler, he's a dealer, and his family was in construction also. It's a very big construction company before he, was involved in politics from a very young age. I guess his father became mayor of this little town that they lived in. But, he even helped Ferdinand Marcos. He received money to lobbying for funding. So he when we say lobbyists in Washington, I'm not so sure who's the worst culprit, the lobbyists or the politicians that agree and allow those lobbyists to influence them in order to send millions and millions and billions of dollars to these foreign causes and so forth. So, I think I would have to apply more guilt to the politicians than I would the lobbyists, because you wouldn't have the lobbyists, they wouldn't be effective if the politicians didn't, yield to their wheelings and dealings. So I hold politicians accountable, and they should be.
When we ended up with career politicians, it ended up being where we no longer have representation. It's just that simple. They're representing themselves and their careers and others, not the American people.
And Manafort is really the guy that we dislike because of his power in Washington, that he can wheel and deal. He has worked for presidents in the past, his connections, and he was a leading strategist for John Kasich. He almost he was running to head the McCain convention in 2008. He ran the convention that nominated Bob Dole, so he really was in there in a very close ties to all of these administrations, as I mentioned, Reagan and Bush also. But it's funny. And so you can't say that his dealings have probably been in question for many, many years, but certainly now that it has to involve Trump, they're certainly now beginning to say, well, maybe we can get some sort of a connection and bring down Trump, because that's their ultimate goal.
Well, and this is not Trump, but this is what the swamp is.
Yes, you're right.
It's all these connections, all for money. They launder the money. They're doing all this wheeling and dealing up there in D.C. and around in the politics, and it happens in the state politics as well. It's just on a bigger scale up there in D.C., the new boom town in the United States of America that produces nothing but extracts a lot. And that's what the swamp is. And it's a spider web of deception and deal making and money laundering, all for the sake of money and power. And the American people are, left out. We're stuck in the web, paying for their lifestyles, and as if they needed us to help pay for them anymore. I mean, they're all filthy rich from all the deals they've been making, but. Anyway, we're gonna watch this unfold. I think this was probably something they've had ready to do for a long time on Manafort. I don't think they just finally got the information together. I think they've had it for a while, and I think it's a distraction from some of the other that's been taking place. And I saw an interesting interview with Trey Gowdy over the weekend, and there was one with Judge Janine and Jason Chavez that I thought was interesting. And everybody's bantering, everybody's talking, but none of us really know any facts just yet. But they're pretty upset at Attorney General Jeff Sessions because he recused himself and he's not doing anything. And it is kind of disheartening. We all thought he would do something, but he says he's not going to do anything to Hillary Clinton. And if he's not, then he needs to get out, because we need to know what's going on. And if he's not going to do it, then he needs to get out of the way. But that was pretty tough talk coming from Janine. I know she liked, and I did too. I was really on Jeff Sessions, but she said if that's the way he is, then he is the swamp. He's part of the swamp, and I kind of agree. If we're not going to go after these people that are perpetrating crimes and laundering money and making these deals, lobbying against the United States. I mean, this deal with the uranium, it's a serious deal, and everybody says, oh, it's already been debunked. Well, it's not been debunked. It's just been buried under the rug. It's not been debunked. Nobody's ever come out with anything, done anything with it as far as actually digging into it to see and chase all those little spider webs to see where they head. So anyway, that's my opinion.
No, I mean, yes, you would think that there would be a some sort of an investigation. Instead of just saying, ignoring it. But I agree with you. I think the release of this is this distraction. At the timing, everything is timed in Washington.
Yeah.
So, and you know what? We have the tax cuts coming out.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not sure if this will override any information that's included in it'll just. We're not sure how much this will be in the news, but I'll tell you what, before the election and after the election, when I said that we'd be having a chaotic year, I really didn't expect it to be this chaotic.
It's your fault. You predicted this. It's your fault.
I had no idea it would be this chaotic, but and none of that chaos has filtered into the stock market, which is really kind of interesting. And
that is interesting, don't you think? That it just keeps on going, kind of like the energy bunny. It just keeps on going. It's not going to. I mean, something's going to happen. It's going to have to happen. When, we don't know. How soon? Tomorrow? Tonight? a year or two from now, or more. I mean, it's going to happen. It can't keep up the way it's doing.
No, it can't. And, Doug Nolan, again, the CBB, his website, cbb.com, I guess it is. Doug Nolan, he wrote another good article this week. And I just pulled out a couple of things that he talked about of the market that I thought was interesting, the way he tagged our markets. He says they're just relying on financial engineering to juice returns. Those are the fundamentals, financial engineering. That's what's making the stock markets go higher. And you know what? We look at the consumer confidence, and we look at, what these higher gains. Everyone's anticipating higher wages because these companies are supposedly have better earnings, but the only thing that's going to produce is capital gains. It's not going to boost wages. It's going to boost capital gains. And that doesn't help the consumer out there because that means he has to pay tax. And he goes on and he talks about the CPI index. And this is what I've been saying for a very long time, not just the CPI, but his reference is the CPI, that these days, are these reports even relevant? Are these reports a relevant gauge in today's inflationary pressures or monetary instability? And that's what I've been saying for a long time. Are any of them, or any of these reports that they give us, relevant in today's world of our debt-based monetary system? And I don't think they are, and I think that's why they're going to have to come in and replace the system.
Well, I think a lot of the reports we get, a lot of the reports that we do get are not only not relevant, they've got the numbers fudged. When they come out with it, and then that'll be coming out, I guess, later this week or first of next week, the jobs report.
Friday.
We're going to see that, and we know those numbers aren't accurate.
No, that's the point with the CPI and all these other reports that we get. I mean, they're just not relevant in a day of where you have monetary stimulus, these ultra low rates for years and years, and central banks using these low rates to stimulate the economies. I mean, it's not real. So the big question is, we talk about stock markets going down, and we talk about the anniversary of the Great Depression, the stock market crash of 29. So the question isn't, are we waiting to see how you're going to lose your money? The real question is, how are you going to save your money?
Right.
And you have to be proactive to save your money. Just like when you're in the gambling casino, if you're sitting there and you're having a nice little run and you're getting some little profits, a lot of people are going to just sit there and let it ride, and eventually they're going to lose it all. The smart gambler pulls it out. The smart gambler pulls his profit. The smart gambler then he pulls out his principal, and he gets that protected, and that's what folks should be doing. It's really nice to see these great highs, and hey, stock market the Dow might go to 30,000. Who knows? But I think there's so little upside potential to these paper markets. People need to think about how are you going to save your money, and the best way to save your money is with gold and silver. And we're going to carry that little package today that we carried last week. I readjusted the price to $545 for a 1/10 ounce American Gold Eagle and 21 ounce American Silver Eagles data 2017. So still available at that price. You can buy 1 or 100 of these packages, but you must call us at 1-800-375-4188. That's 1-800-375-4188. And
that's $545 for that
$540. That's correct, and that also includes shipping costs.
Okay.
So Wednesday we get the information on the tax reform, and they're still talking about tinkering with your 401 and your 401k. And
that was my question. When we're talking about some of this that's going on, and if they're, of course, they're trying to find another way to get more money out of the American people. But the 401ks and the IRAs, those are all affected by the stock market. What about people that are holding CDs and those kind of things? How do you perceive that being affected with a collapse should that happen?
Well, the CDs are tagged to a very low rate, so you're losing against inflation. So today you might have $100,000 sitting there in a CD, and 5 years from now that CD might only be, your purchasing power might only be $80,000 or $50,000. So because we do have inflation in this country, and with the amount of debt that has been, the amount of money that has been created, we're going to start seeing, the inflation rate is much higher than what they call their little 2% target date. So you lose, if your interest rate's lower than that 2%, which most of them are, you're losing against the inflation. So how are you protecting your money that way? I saw a report. I saw someone's bank statement. They had $250,000 in a CD in a bank. I don't know if it was a CD or if it was just a savings account. I mean, the interest that they got that year was like $25, and it's like, are you kidding me? I mean, you have $250,000, and the amount of interest that you earned was $25. So you lose against inflation. So gold is the best hedge against inflation. So is a great hedge. So another reason to purchase gold and protect yourself against that inflation.
And a few weeks ago, you were saying that you personally, and it's not necessarily everyone should do this, but you personally used an 80-20, 80% gold and 20% silver. Isn't that what you said a week or two ago?
That is correct. Well, if someone asks me my opinion, I'm not a financial planner, so I can't give advice. But if someone asks me my opinion, yes, I believe 80% gold and 20% silver. Now, it depends on the customer's objective. He might want more silver. He might want to speculate a little bit more on silver and go 50-50. But I do believe gold is the way to preserve your purchasing power. Silver is there for you're speculating on the bigger return, and of course, for purchasing things. So you have a little more volatility with silver than you do with gold. And so I think it's going to be, central banks don't buy silver. They might buy some, but the majority, if they buy, it's all about gold. And I believe the world finances ultimately will be all about gold. That is going to be the key thing. So 80-20.
I do hear music. We're going into a break. Your calls are welcome at 717-300-1218. That's 717-300-1218. It's been a Monday. We've had a few hiccups in the road here today, but we're going to overcome them. We have overcome them, at least thus far. We should knock on wood. Did that. 717-300-1218. You're listening to Power Talks with Melody and Beth Ann in the morning, and we will be right back.
Hear it first on FirstAmendmentRadio.com and FirstAmendmentRadio.net. Since the beginning of time, kings have sought it, nations have fought for it. It has been traded, it has been borrowed, it has been purchased, it has been stolen. There's a reason for it. To secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and to our posterity, invest with the security of gold and silver. Call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188 or visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net. Listen to Financial Survival with your host Melody Cedarstrom right here on FirstAmendmentRadio.com at 4 p.m. Eastern or 1 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net or call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188. Toll free 1-800-375-4188. The program you are listening to is 100% sponsored by you, the listener, on this First Amendment Rights Media channel. you will notice that there are few commercials on this radio network. There's a good reason for that. Corporate advertising dollars come with strings that limit program content. So without your help, these programs cannot continue on Internet or our several affiliates. If you benefit by the educational law programs, we ask you to give. If you are admonished or nurtured by the Bible and ministry programs, we ask you to give. If some voice a cause that you are passionate about, we ask you to give. If you believe in any of these, we ask you to support them as you would a missionary on a continual basis, as if giving a tithe for missionary radio. These programs are not commercially viable and must be supported by those faithful to the cause of truth. Look for the button to sponsor your favorite programs at our listen and schedule pages on the Internet. Then, when you subscribe, we will send you the last quarterly MP3 CD of that program immediately, and continue to do so with each new quarter. We will also give you unlimited archive access to all of our programs. We're asking you to give much less than a tithe, so that you may also send support directly to a particular program host, cause, and anywhere else the Spirit may lead you. Do all to the glory of our God and Creator, for His holy nation, the only kingdom that will last forever. Thank you for listening.
American Silver Eagles, and those are dated 2017. I'm sorry. 2014? What was I thinking?
I don't know. You're really going back in history
I'm
there.
going back.
Come back
2017.
To us, come back.
Good grief. 500. Get
$545, and you can go.
$545. So
call 1-800-375-4188. That's 1-800-375-4188.
It really is a Monday.
It really is. Joe, can you save us? Joe from Arkansas, can you save us?
Well, I've got a point I'd like to bring up.
Okay.
This is a point about economics that has been kind of on my mind, and I thought I would bring it up. And I guess I'd especially be interested in Melody's comments on this issue because she seems to be the economic expert. But anyway, it's this. The conservative commentators that I listen to, they're all in favor of energy self-sufficiency. You know, they're all in favor of coal production and fracking and so on like this because they say energy self-sufficiency is very important to our economy. We shouldn't be dependent on countries that hate us, for our energy supply, and it's a matter of national security that we shouldn't be dependent for our energy needs on countries that could become potentially enemy countries in a conflict. And I agree. I think they've got a really good point there. I think that energy self-sufficiency is a really good idea. So I agree with them on that. But then I think further, well, what about self-sufficiency in some other things that are really just as important as energy? Like, for instance, food. Wouldn't all those same arguments apply to food? Wouldn't it be good to be food self-sufficient? What about clothing? Isn't clothing, as necessary to life as energy? Wouldn't it be good to be clothing self-sufficient? What about electronics? Everything these days depends on these computers and cell phones and these electronic gadgets and so on like that. Wouldn't it be important? Wouldn't it be very good to be self-sufficient in those things too, and not dependent for all those necessities of life in the modern age on countries like China, which are not our friends and could potentially become very dangerous enemies? What about self-sufficiency in tools and machinery and equipment and things like that? Aren't those just as necessary to modern life as energy? And so on. I wish I could get, these conservative commentators to answer, that question. Wouldn't it be good to be self-sufficient in all these other necessaries of life besides just energy? Why do they only pick on energy as the thing that we should be self-sufficient in? And especially since the government of China, as I understand it, has recently announced that they intend to become the world's dominant power in 30 years, wouldn't it be a very, very good idea to not be economically so dependent on China for so many of the things we need in this modern life? So that's my thoughts on that matter. Melody or Beth Ann, if you've got any comments on that matter, I sure would be interested in hearing what you've got to say.
Well, they don't answer that question because they don't want that. They've been getting on to, President Donald Trump, and calling him an isolationist and a nationalist, as if those were bad words. I don't think there's any way, and I don't think you're implying that at all, to be an isolationist. But to be a nationalist and put America first and make sure that we can take care of ourselves before we take care of other nations or provide for other nations, I think is number one. I think we should be doing that. And, this thing with cool, and I know that you're aware of that, with the country of origin labeling, that was out there, and we were supposed to be abiding by it, and all of a sudden a few of these rhinos decided, no, that's not good. That's not good for trade, and we're getting in trouble with some of these other countries, so we're going to repeal that, and Sass was in on that. He's from Nebraska, where, that's a big cattle state, a beef cattle industry there, and, so here we don't even want to brag on our own, to say ours is better, and give people a choice as to whether they buy American beef or foreign beef. You don't have that choice as a consumer. They didn't want you to know where it's coming from. More things that are concealed. But I think you're absolutely right, Joe. There's no reason not to be self-sufficient in these areas, and they're all important. Besides energy, they're making money off of this climate change, global warming, whatever you want to call it. It was global cooling when I was a teenager, and they decided that wasn't working, so they were going to change it. And it suits their purpose when we have a hot day. It doesn't suit their purpose so much when we're all freezing to death with the cold and the ice and the snow. But I think you're absolutely right. I'm going to let Melody chime in as well.
Well, you're both right. And, it all comes back, and it comes back to the free trade. We've exported a lot of our inflation, and to bring a lot of these things back, we will see prices rise. People have become accustomed to, and then I hear the same thing, well, wages will rise in order to offset the rising prices. Well, I don't think it will. I think we're a debt-based consumer. We're a debt-based monetary system, and I think until that gets fixed, we can't fix anything else. The thing that upsets me more about the food is we import more than we export. What are we even doing importing any food at all? We can't sustain ourselves in food. I mean, I remember when I was a child, and when you go to the grocery store, you bought fruit that was bared for that season. And
right.
We didn't have to have watermelon in winter. We didn't have to have, So, and then now it's a 24/7, and how do we fix these things? Certainly we can hack at the trade agreements, make them fair trade, not free trade, but we are globalized whether we like it or not. And our monetary system is so ingrained globally, we do need someone who is a protectionist. We do need someone that's an isolationist to think about America's what's good for America and not good for everyone else. And we were talking about the electronics. We have President Trump, visiting with China's president for 2 days. Later in the week, the first of next week, I'm not sure exactly what days. Well, today you have the Apple chief executive, Tim Cook, and Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg. They're meeting with the Chinese president today. So it's kind of like now they're in there kind of doing their little deal with trade and building and everything else prior to, the president getting there, later on in the week. Now, most people probably wouldn't see anything into this, but, you have Zuckerberg when he's in Beijing. He says every year this trip is a great way to keep up with the pace of innovation and entrepreneurship in China. Well, how about in America?
Mm.
But you have these huge multinational corporations. You've got these tech companies anymore. You got Amazon. They're not going to. Their hearts, I don't believe, are for this country. So it's just not the politicians. It's also, we got to get these multinational corporations out of Washington. That's not going to happen.
Nationalism doesn't fit with the socialist agenda.
No, not at all.
And it's all about becoming a global world. Like I had said about Superman, maybe I didn't say that on this one, but on my show we talked about Superman. He's denounced his citizenship to the United States of America, and he is now a citizen of the world. And I said, well, I prefer Captain America anyway. So my son set me straight. He said, well, they fired those writers, and they're going to bring Superman back. So I said, well, I'm still sticking with Captain America. He's not nearly as fickle. But anyway, that it just doesn't fit with their socialist agenda, Joe, and that's why the climate change issue, the energy issue, is something they are making money off of.
Tons.
And it's a fraud. It's the biggest hoax perpetrated against American people. That's what Clint Eastwood said, and I agree with it. I agree 100% with Clint on that one. So we need to, as Joe, and I know Joe is of this character, we need to make sure that we as individuals and families and communities are sustainable, because we can't control the outside, apparently. We're going to keep on trying. But I know that Joe is taking care of his own there, where he's sustainable himself. Joe, appreciate the call. Oh, I hear music, Melody. Yes. I hear music. I didn't get to talk about one thing I wanted to talk about.
The Monday show is over.
Tomorrow will be Tuesday. It'll be a better day. And we're going to work on Beth's Skype and phone issues, and we will get all taken care of until that time. You have a great afternoon, and we'll see you in the morning. Thank you.
Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of Nicholas Arthur's new book titled When the Third Temple is Built. That's crosstheborder.org. When it comes to prophecy today, much of the evangelical Christian world has their eyes on Israel, waiting and watching to see when the third temple will begin to be built. The plans are drawn. The Jewish people are eager. Most evangelical Christians today believe that the rapture will happen before the third temple is built. Hi, I'm Michael Eugene. I was taught that Daniel's 70th week was in the future. Is that really what the Bible teaches? Have we searched the scriptures and found this to be true? Why is it so important for a re-established Israel to build a third temple in Jerusalem? Is it necessary to build a temple on the same location already occupied by the Dome of the Rock? Is it necessary for sacrifices to take place in the temple on Temple Mount? Is there really a rapture followed by 7 years of tribulation? What is the New Testament temple? Can we identify history and prophecy? Who is the first beast in Revelation chapter 13? Who are the 7 kings in Revelation 17? I have asked all these questions, and I have found Nicholas Arthur's new book, When the Third Temple is Built, answers all these questions and more using Scripture to interpret Scripture. The Bible says that no prophecy of Scripture is of any private interpretation. Nicholas shows us in his new book, When the Third Temple is Built, how the Bible interprets prophecy and not man's private interpretation. Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of Nicholas Arthur's new book titled When the Third Temple is Built. That's crosstheborder.org.
The book of Revelation says, the spirit of prophecy is the testimony of Jesus Christ. This is at the very heart of FirstAmendmentRadio.com. In that spirit, we have created the Prophecy Reality News app for all of your mobile devices, streaming First Amendment Radio 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Available for your Apple, Android device, and smartphone, absolutely free. Get the Prophecy Reality News app installed today so you can listen to First Amendment Radio wherever you are. The Prophecy Reality News app. Get it now.
Since the beginning of time, kings have sought it, nations have fought for it. It has been traded, it has been borrowed, it has been purchased, it has been stolen. There's a reason for it. To secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and to our posterity. Invest with the security of gold and silver. Call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188 or visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net. Listen to Financial Survival with your host Melody Cedarstrom right here on FirstAmendmentRadio.com at 4 p.m. Eastern or 1 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net or call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188. Toll free 1-800-375-4188.